Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us to live in this United States, the freedom that we have. Thank you for the opportunity to come and discuss the business that is at hand. Be with us tonight. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, you are in our midst. I pray that you'll be in our midst and help us to do your will. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Bob, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our point person tonight is Karen Kirkpatrick. Jennifer's gone, Nicole's gone, so Karen's that rolled into one.
All right, Randy, are you here?
Yep.
Jen Wertz. Nicole, Susan DeLong. Present. John Lindsay.
Nope.
Karen, yes. Chance Murdoch.
Present.
John Towers. Here. Did you hear the yes? Carol Schulte.
Yep, I'm here.
Darius Behringer. Here. Ethan Van Blarcom.
Yes.
Mary Jo Evans.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you. We have any visitors here tonight that would like to announce themselves that they're here visiting? Anybody?
Norbert Druss.
Norbert Druss from Bronson, right?
Yeah, double down, Jim Bronson.
Yep, very good. Thanks for being here. Anyone else? All righty. Now we'll go right into approval of the agenda in the minutes. First, we'll go on the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Move.
Letha moves. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Passed. Now on the minutes. We have a motion to accept the minutes. Nate moves to accept the minutes. Do I have a second? Second. John Towers with an F. All in favor of improvement in the minutes, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Approved. Committee reports. I have a couple things. We had a district convention, a little different than a state convention. We got together and each of our districts met separately at one building. And we voted to send delegates and alternates to the national convention this summer up in Wisconsin. And we voted for a Republican, a woman and a man to be our representatives to the RNC. And then on a personal note, I was elected to be one of the 3 delegates from our district to go to the national convention to vote there for the president. This is true. And the group that we had up there was a very good group. The 11 of us that were there voting, at least 6 worked the convention. Karen was the parliamentarian up front. We had people that counting votes, and David was a runner. So if they needed anything, they'd send him down to get what. And we even had people saving lives. Karen, right outside the meeting where we were getting together, guy, she could say, wasn't walking too well, sat down, and when he sat down, he toppled over, had a heart attack. So It was kind of unique that we had our Dr. Sherry, was she one of them there?
She made it over.
So there's a doctor running for a Senate position, and her booth was just right around the corner from where we were. So there was a doctor, and then who's the guy running that got the Republican position? He's also a doctor. What was his name?
Rob Steele.
Yeah, Rob Steele.
Yeah, Rob Steele. Didn't he come over there too?
There was an EMT over there too. One of the Republicans was also an EMT. I don't know who he was, but
Okay.
It took a lot to get through, and we could not locate AD. It was the craziest thing in the Amway. Really weird.
But so our group was well represented with.
And he survived, by the way.
Yeah, he survived.
Nobody
Oh.
seemed to let
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah.
He did survive.
We'll
A
let,
little drama over here.
we'll let you know at the next meeting what happened.
Yeah, he had his input in that day.
Make him want to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The suspense is
Till the next meeting. Come on, what are you doing?
I just saw their faces going,
Come back to the next meeting.
That was the main thing I wanted to go through, just let you know about that. And
treasurer's
Treasurer's
report?
report.
Okay. I do want to bring to your attention a couple new things we're adding as we grow. So first of all, on January 10th, of course, our previous balance was $4,178.73. If you notice on February 23rd, we added a deposit towards convention stipend. If you were at some of the last meetings we've talked about, in the future, we're going to try to keep a little pot set aside, hopefully, for as people go to convention. If money's a little bit tighter, we can dip in there. I don't want to quote me on this yet, but I think it was agreed that $50 towards each stipend that would be necessary. And we hope maybe in the future to acquire enough money there that maybe we can even help people in a bigger way, or maybe just Senate convention goers and have it supported. But anyway, I just wanted you to note that you'll start to see in here the convention stipend. You'll see that I kind of take it back out so that what we really have, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So our total was $4,178.73 previous balance. We did have a private donor quietly donate the convention stipend of $200. And it is told to me to only be used for that reason. That gave us a total of $4,378.73. Then, of course, you can see we have reimbursement to the LDD airfare, which is our speaker. The BCRP logo that's been created, our reimbursement for the LDD to Nicole for different paper and necessary things. I'm sorry, those were actually for tickets. Probably should have put that in there. And our total checks, $667.20, leaving us currently with a registered balance of $3,711.53. But that's where, if you look down with the convention stipend, you can ask these two. I guard our money. So in my mind, we have accessible to us $3,511.53 for all state fund issues right now. That $200 will stay guarded and only used for convention stipends. And as that grows, you'll see that difference. For administrative account, previous balance $838.63. I have to say thank you so much to everyone supporting the little elephant back there for the potluck donations. We had, at the January 29th meeting, we had $251 deposited. The February 16th convention, we had potluck donation plus a private cash donation that was returned as a generous offer there for a total of $423. As you can see, those total deposits, and that gives us $1,512.63. Deers needed to be reimbursed for some potluck expenses, 2 of the rental fees to the Coldwater Township Hall, and then the Microsoft subscription fees for Miss Nicole to do her job. And that gives us a total current register balance of $1,355.05 in our admin account.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Finance, Chance.
Well, we tried to have a meeting on Tuesday, but both Karen and Jerry were unavailable. And since we have nothing planned except for Lincoln Day, we elected to forego a meeting, and with the words Lincoln Day. And with that, I'll yield the rest of my time to Lincoln Day.
Thank you, Chan. John, campaign.
So as you can see throughout the county, there's a lot of signs you're starting to see. I think a lot of them are sheriff's signs currently. All of us candidates for county commissioner haven't really got our signs out yet. So we've been doing a lot of interviews with, I think we have our third sheriff interview next week on Thursday. It's Fred Blankenship. So we've interviewed the other two already. We've interviewed all the state representatives that are running, or the ones that allow us to interview them. So yeah, we're staying busy with the interviews, and we're going to do a report probably for the next meeting on the 3 sheriffs that we interviewed, kind of just give us some feedback on what we found out from each one, because I think the whole purpose of doing the interviews is so that we can give feedback to the group on like what they said and how they answered questions and stuff like that. That's what I got.
Thank you, sir. On relations is Nicole. Is there anybody working with her that has anything?
I brought on the back table, I think, some additional handouts. There should be 2 things back there for Lincoln Day. Those who are working on your ads, just continue getting those in. Start working on ticket sales and get those in too, so that we can have some better numbers than are showing right now, and just really get that support. And I know that they're still looking for a few more things for the silent auction. It doesn't have to be big. Just think of something creative. It could be from out of city, out of county, and just bring it in for a silent auction. Anything we can do.
Karen, I have somebody that would like to donate. What do I give them to do that?
Donate money, or if they want to donate money, there I put forms on the back table.
Okay.
So talk to me afterwards.
It's for the Lincoln Day though. Okay.
And we can put on there specifically for Lincoln Day, but that would be a great form to do it with.
Thank you.
Yep. No, thank you.
When does our ads have to be in?
I don't know the answer. She asked when the ads have to be in. Just keep bringing them, and Nicole will send out a stop date for it. Yeah.
Cheryl?
Nicole wanted to start working on the ads when she got back from vacation, which is like the 1st of next week. So she's asked me to gather if anybody has ads that they sold, give Susan the money, give me the ads, and I'll get them to Nicole when she gets back from vacation. So
we have about another week. All right, another week.
Anything else? Election integrity, that's usually our Betsy. She's not in tonight. Is there anyone that works with Betsy that has anything that they'd like to mention? Okay.
I think the only thing Betsy would bring up is a huge kudos that we finally seen some action from the RNC. I mean, within a week or so?
Or less.
Or of Watley and Trump taking over, is that they sued Michigan Secretary of State over how she's maintaining or not the voter rolls. So stay tuned.
Yep. That was fun to see. Did everybody understand what Karen meant by that? So you have new leaders. You have new leaders at the RNC, and within days of them taking over, one of the first things they did was come to Michigan to sue Michigan over Michigan not cleaning up their voter records, getting rid of the people that have died and all that. So it's hopeful to see them doing something that could help us in the election. Just plain fighting.
It was the percentage of, or the people that voted, they, like the people that are over 18 in the census, that amount of people, there was more people that voted than there were. Yes. So that's, yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
They also cut 60 positions too.
Yes, they did. So what Sharon said is they also cut 60 positions at the RNC.
The news said it was a bloodbath.
Long time coming.
Love it, Bill.
Nobody doesn't fall far from the tree.
Karen?
Yeah.
Karen, you might ask Scott to be very careful about
term because there could be someone from the media listening. He could get in a lot of trouble using that term.
The blood bath?
Blood bath, yeah.
Red blood plasma bath. Red cell plasma bath. That is a good.
You're not getting any help from me.
I know.
It'll all go
Cut that
wrong.
one.
So,
That's a good point.
on the fundraising, these committees kind of overlapping a little bit as we're heading them with a different name. Fundraising is part of Lincoln Day and Reagan barbecue. So basically, we pretty much already covered the fundraising. Public outreach, we have a Strawberry Fest coming up, and then there will be an Apple Fest, and we'll have the 4-H fair. Do we have anybody in here that would like to take those on and set up at each one? We usually put up a 10 by 10 tent and a couple tables and sell shirts and all that. Speaking of which, Rock brings in his tub every week. That tub has flags and shirts, everything there for sale. And you can use the QR codes. I'm sure there's lots of ways Rock can take your money from you. So try to come up and get something from there. Darius has all kinds of information on the table when you come in and sign in. After the meeting, you want to go back through and look at some of that. There's all kinds of good information there. People that are running for something, if they want to bring in a shirt or a sign, the way I feel they're welcome to, unless somebody comes up with a reason why they shouldn't. As long as you are Republican and voting our way, I guess, bring it in. Michael Thing has some stuff back there. But if anybody could step up for the Strawberry and Apple Fest and Fair, I would appreciate it to get a hold of me.
So Strawberry Fest is June 15th. Regardless of whether you want to run that committee, everybody should have it on their calendar for volunteer help. And then September 21st is Apple Fest.
All right, headquarters. Hello.
Can I ask a question about the Strawberry Fest and stuff? I know before they had issues with some of our, like people that were running, coming to the booth. Are we letting them come to the booth this year?
Well, I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about like how Kim took it over?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yes, they were saying before they said no, they didn't want any of them there, and I'm like, we need to have them there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them coming.
Okay.
You can probably get Jonathan's opinion on how that should run.
But now that you just put ice cream in his mouth?
I mean, I think you should email everybody that's running and ask them if they want to work
Right.
the booth, but like formalize it that they're,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's there for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it should be open to anybody that's running.
Yeah. So I think for the most part we don't have a real problem. There we did, but
Oh, we did.
yeah, it was straightened
Worked out
out.
great.
It was straightened out. It-
Does that need to be voted that they can come and help, or is that just something that is gonna happen?
I think as we get a chair, we just need to formalize it.
Yeah. Yep. Headquarters. We've been talking about this a little bit, and this hall, we've been getting it for $50 a night, once a month. It's going to $200 a night for once a month. There are some other places that are still cheaper than the 200, but they are also operated by some of the same people, so those will, I would imagine, be going up 200 plus. So, we do the hall, and then every other year we get a headquarters for the election and try to have that for a couple months in that neighborhood. where you can have all your signs and flags and have a place for people to come. So we just had this come up where my cousin is buying a airport hangar at the airport, and he was wondering if we'd be interested in renting from him a place to meet and have an office there under lock and key, and that would be available to us 24/7. We'd have keys to the place. It has a dinette, it has the bathrooms. If we have a bigger gathering, they'll just roll the airplanes right out of the hangar. We can use the hangar space to gather. Anybody, our committees could meet there at any time. You could have small gatherings to big gatherings. It lines right up, of course, to the runway. So once you open up that hangar door, you've got about 200 feet or more right out to the airport. It's all just wide open space. So it's something we've been checking into and looking at, and we're going to keep looking at it, see if we can figure something out, price-wise and availability, just so we have something that's ours year-round is what we're looking for.
Did you want to talk a little bit more? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is this headquarters, are we trying to get that as visible as possible to people? I mean, because I remember headquarters being on main thoroughfares where people, there's a lot of traffic.
The main problem with that has been trying to find a place on the main street that hasn't already been taken up by people selling dope. They've pretty well taken most of the office space up, and if you can get on Main Street, also then to have any kind of parking is difficult also. So this is not right sitting on 12, but if you know where the dispatch building is, so you have Binky Road comes up to US 12, and you look west, there's a building there where they do irrigation and grain bin stuff. The next building is the dispatch building for the county. Right behind that, the very first hangar is the one where we're looking at. So when you're driving down 12, you don't necessarily see it, but once you get the word out and people start to see, I mean, you can look right at it, but it just doesn't jump out at you.
And you could put a sign out there on 12.
Yeah.
I bet Custom Ag would let you do that.
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's what I was gonna ask, when we have front row access to put signs out.
Yes. And when we put up, if we get it, everything goes through, we can put up flags. All of that can be seen right from 12. It's just itself is not sitting right on 12.
You'd be able to advertise close to 12 so people wouldn't have to look real, like, over to the side.
You know, and at some point, we could even do postcards that would have an actual picture of location, and as we're out there all handing that out and asking people to come join us. And if each one of us would stick 2 or 3 friends in your car and bring them, wouldn't that be a blast?
John?
Just saying.
Once it's consistent, if you get something like that, it's consistent, then that US 12, that's a really good spot for it, because
Yes.
people know it's right out here by the airport, and you won't have any trouble. You'll have just as good access, once they know it's there.
And that's what we're hoping for or imagining, is to have something year round, and like you're saying, once you get it started, it's right there. And my cousin and his better half, I guess you would say, they're in real estate. They live in Marshall, and they need a place here in Coldwater as to have office space themselves. So they will be there almost all the time at the same building. So they're very much into what we're doing with the Republicans, and it's their way of trying to help and share. So even when he rented out airplane space, it had to be with the understanding that if we were to have some gathering, that it was going to be all right to roll the plane out. And one of them that's renting space is for his helicopter, who's on the board down to Hillsdale College. So if you just never know who you might run into or anything. I just, if we can do it, make it work, I just think the sky's the limit on what we could do there.
It's probably not big enough for like a Lincoln Day event, is it?
Might be for the barbecue, but probably not the Lincoln Day. Lincoln Day, we might still, have formal, or we'll see how this one goes. I mean, do you think it's big enough for Lincoln Day? I think it is for Reagan Day barbecue because it's a little more casual.
A little more casual, and the barbecue theme a little bit outdoors anyway. And if the weather looked bad, you could use the hangar.
Yeah.
And you could also, if you had to, put up a single tent or something outside to help. There's quite a bit of space in that hangar because he'll have it rented to 2 smaller planes and 1 helicopter. So it, once you're in
we
there.
may find as we improve, because there's, it's a little rough right now. It looks like it walked out of the 70s. But that's what we're going to get. We're going to clean it up, and all of us can contribute and do a little bit here and a little bit there and clean it up. Maybe it can Lincoln Day. My vision was Lincoln Day might still be a little more semi-formal or formal or like Tibbetts, what we're doing. But the barbecue, I can definitely see it being a blast, too. Randy, did you want me to go over this just to ease everyone's mind as well?
Sure.
Okay. So Miss Letha Van Blarkum brought up something when we were reviewing this place together. And once again, for those of you that have come to know our state money, that money is only to be used to do exactly what we're here to do, and that is support them. So what I wanted to assure you, if we do the headquarters, we don't have an exact monthly amount yet. That will be refined. But let's just say, for example, let's say it was $1,000 a month. Gasp, that seems like a lot. But when you find out what we paid for headquarters, and when you find out what we pay and will pay for the future, and when you find out what we had to pay for either tents or buildings for barbecues and for other events. So what I did is I found out, I did a little research on my own, we have many people that have already stepped up. Mary Jo Evans has spoken. I know your RH Trucking has spoke up. So what we would do if this happens is we have our admin account, which is what this money here from the elephant goes towards for small incidentals. But we would actually have sponsorship. So maybe Gladiola Farms, for example, or you see what I'm saying? But we have businesses in town that would say, I would donate 1 month to the headquarters. And as you walk into this new headquarters, there's like a hallway. And for those that want the recognition, we'd be like, hey, they supported us. They're a January headquarters supporter. And I would like to see that support be all over. Some people don't like the recognition. Awesome. But if some people, we have to call it sponsorship. So follow me there. I'm just going to use you for a minute, okay? So let's say that Gladiola Farm decided to do that. Then we would ask, do you want to have that recognition or not? And then he would tell us, and we would create a very professional, beautiful recognition of appreciation. I would always make a point of saying he should check with his accountants. Statistically, it may not be a tax deduction. Not sure. I don't want to be responsible for that. So I would have them check to make sure it's tax deductible or not, and would they still like to do that? So I have actually quite a lot of people that have already stepped up. So I have reason to believe we may have volunteers to support the headquarters. Then that little elephant would still be needed through the potluck for like the papers, the printing, the postcards, the little admin costs that we do. Does that make sense? And so the state fund would be left alone. So this would be the admin account to pay for the headquarters, no different than the admin account now pays for this hall. Any questions? Just want to make sure.
Are there facilities for eating there?
Yes.
Really nice.
Yes. Well,
Not
really
really
nice is no. So you literally, it stopped being decorated in the 70s. I'm not going to lie. It's really rough around the edges right now, but I see a lot of potential.
I have video from when we were out there.
Yes. Okay, great. She has video. So, but you got to see its potential. It's like buying an old farm home. You know, in the beginning, it looks like rough. But a year later, it's still our space. And we can make it and create it what we want. So that's just my thought. But I just wanted to reassure everyone, state account funds will not be directed to this, will be the admin fund. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Question, is it warm in the winter, and do we pay for any of the heat or electric?
Yes, it's warm, and no, we don't pay.
What about air conditioning?
Didn't ask that.
It's warm.
It's warm. Thanks, Scott.
And we can set up meetings like this
Oh, yeah,
in there?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so our monthly
The-
meeting,
Yes, monthly meeting would be there. It'd be cramped compared to this.
Yeah.
We
It's
wouldn't,
smaller.
we wouldn't have that many tables set up. If you're gonna, a lot of people are gonna be sitting with their
Well,
plate on their
I was
lap.
gonna say, 2 years ago, you guys, when I first came here, we were just chairs.
Right.
We didn't have tables. This is a luxury. And whenever I've gone to Hillsdale, it's, it's a little clumsy, but you can hold your food in your lap and eat your food and then be ready. So it will be a little bit smaller, unfortunately.
But he also, oh, I'm sorry, go
Are there
ahead.
table and chairs provided?
Will be, yep. Yep. So this is 40 feet by about 40 feet. We have about 10 feet back there we don't use because of the food tables and sign-in table. So pretty much where we're using this is 40 by 30. The basic room is 28 by 25, so you're losing a lot of square footage, but there's an entrance way. So the table with all that information would be in a different area where you're coming in. And signs and all of that would all line up right there in the doorway where you come in. So I'm sure that we're gonna be able to make it work if we get and decide to go in there. And there's also a couple small offices that it will be possible to take them out and make the room then that much bigger, which would that would fix a lot of it right there. So it's going back and forth, being negotiated, see what we can come up with. Any other questions on that? Okay. Bylaws update. Is that gonna be you, Cheryl?
Yes, it is.
It's yours.
All right, there's a couple extra copies up here for anybody that needs them. Anybody? Do you have one?
Try it out, Cheryl.
Oh, no, you don't. Yeah, you do. Somebody over here need one? Okay.
You wanna come up here, Cheryl?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
I can do that.
you need to get a pivot leg out.
And use your outside voice.
Oh, okay. All right, my outside voice. So, it's not really anything changing the bylaws. How many of you, first time you came, didn't know what we were doing or what we were about, and you just had nothing to reference? Well, that's all this is. This is something to give to new people so they know what we're doing here and how they can get involved. It doesn't reference the bylaws, it doesn't change the bylaws at all. So, all it is, the first paragraph just kind of welcomes folks and explains to them the difference between statutory members, which are the EC, and the elected officials, precinct delegates, explains what that is and how they can be a precinct delegate and what precinct delegates do, explains the executive committee, explains who can vote and why they're able to vote, explains what guests can do, that they really can't vote, they can be allowed to talk, it's just up to Randy, all-powerful Randy. And so then it goes into membership. Now this is stuff that the membership, and this isn't, we're open to changes. Anybody has ideas or want something different with this, but it's just very basic, membership, and it's just be a citizen of the United States, reside in Branch County, uphold the laws of the land, respect the bylaws that govern our EC, support the Branch County Republicans by participating to some degree in meetings, functions, campaign activities, committees, fundraisers, and they've instituted paying dues. So anybody who wants to do that can be considered a member. I mean, it's not like we have a real formal membership, but kind of gives folks an idea. It does go on to talk about how someone can just be asked to not be here, and that's so a member deemed to no longer be in good standing regarding the above expectations shall be notified. They're in probationary standing, and if necessary, we can, it says, be removed by 75% vote of the party members present, and that includes everybody in good standing. So, and they will be requested that they just not attend anymore. So I'm not sure that gives us a lot of legal power, but it's something, right?
That's right.
I just tell the sheriff, walk them out.
So then it goes into the rights of membership, says that they can be advisory voting as deemed by the EC chair, and lots of times when we have votes, we want everybody's opinion. Presentations of letters, resolutions, proposals to be considered by the EC. They can participate in discussions on committees and events, campaign activities. They can even attend the state conventions. So the rest of it is just definitions, like what's the 5th Congressional District? I didn't know when I first started coming. No idea. Of course, it wasn't the 5th back then. But so it just explains that, explains some of the Robert's Rules of Order terms. Then there's a list of questions and answers, questions that, folks might ask if they were here. And then just a note on the back, it says changes to this document can be made if when approved by 70% of the members present and in good standing. So it's not even an EC thing, it's just the members present that are in good standing. So I don't know if that's something you wanted to vote on tonight, or it doesn't really change anything. It's just a document that we can give to new people so they know who we are and how they can get involved.
I don't think we really need to vote on it. I think it's just something we can just get out to everybody.
Okay.
What about you, parliamentarian?
Well, I had one. I wish I would have gotten the change in there. I don't think we need to vote, but I think it would be good faith too.
Okay.
And the other thing is that the one change. Actually, if we can take a motion first, and then I'll
Okay.
make a change.
You're done with me up here, right?
I think so.
That was
All
good.
right.
Thank you, Cheryl.
We might need to call on you though.
So if you have any questions, you can call on her.
Yeah.
Cheryl?
Yes, Dee.
Well, if we're going to discuss a vote on what we just heard, I would move that we approve these as amended.
Okay, the motions do need to come from the EC.
Okay. Yes. We gotta vote on this first. Okay. Or make a motion on this first.
So really what the motion D put out there would be good, but we need an EC member to do it.
To adopt it.
Need a motion
So-
to adopt the bylaws?
Yes.
Yes.
So make a motion to adopt the bylaws.
These are in the
No, no.
bylaws.
Yeah, these are not to the bylaws, these are.
Adopt member guidelines.
Is that better? To adopt member guidelines.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Cheryl, she got to.
Jill's fast.
Moved and seconded to adopt the guidelines, the
John was
newer
first.
guidelines. Is there any discussion? Karen?
I would like to propose, just officially, propose an amendment that, hang on, let me get back to that page. That on the last page where it says changes to this document approved by 70%, I would just like in commas, other than updating public officials. So that when we vote and new public officials take over these 3 positions, that we don't need to take another vote,
Oh,
just to update them. Cheryl, does that make sense?
No.
So right now, we list Tim Wahlberg, Jonathan Lindsay, and Andrew Fink. So say changes to this document other than updating public officials can be made if approved by 70%.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I see. Yeah, like the amount of precinct delegates that we have, that's listed, so things like that should be able to be changed. This is a
Right.
combined, yep.
Or next time around when we're no longer the city district.
Right.
Can we put at the very top of it what this actual document is?
Yes,
Like right there where it says Branch County Republican Party, right below it or inside it?
All right. So are you making? Is that a? Well, actually, I need an EC. So I will amend my amendment to say two things. Number one, on the notes section on page 6, changes to this document, comma, other than updating, let's say, public record. Okay, other than updating public record, comma, can be made. Secondly, Branch County Republican Party member, hold on. Member guideline, yes, membership guidelines.
Membership guidelines, right there.
Well, it's not membership, it's just
Member.
Or maybe a.
It says
some sort of
membership.
booklet.
Yeah, membership guidelines.
Or is this really just for the guests? So maybe it could be a guest booklet or a, what?
It's for,
guidelines,
it's
it
for
just needs
people.
a name,
Right.
guidelines.
Just put guidelines.
Or just guide.
Well, apparently we need to revisit this just one more time, right?
Hold on just a second.
Branch County Republican Party booklets? So it's, wow, yeah.
I don't, people want to always know.
Attendee guidelines.
Attendee?
That's perfect.
Perfect.
I will,
Ta-da!
I'll modify to that.
Cheryl, look what you did.
That's why she was on the committee, right?
Attendee guidelines, perfect.
And just so everybody knows, the bylaw committee has been working, meeting, and going through this thing to try to simplify it. So even though it sounds a little jumbled when you hear some of it at the beginning, they've worked it down to try to make it easier and simpler to read. So, is there any more discussion? Jonathan?
I guess first, sort of a point of inquiry, was this sent out to all the EC members before tonight?
It was.
I don't have it in my email.
Oh.
It was. John sent it out, didn't he?
Yeah, I got it.
You might not be on your dad's list.
Yeah.
I just,
You're not the
it seems
real
like there are
Jonathan.
enough comments coming up here that were not addressed before bringing it up for a vote, that if this is gonna be a, what are we saying, an official document of a
Yes.
party that requires a 70% vote to change, I mean, I think maybe it needs another round of review and bring it
Yeah.
back next month. If
Yeah.
not, then I'm gonna make a motion to amend to spell my name correctly.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Was it Jonathan or the Lindsay part?
No, it's the then. Right. That's the thing is we can update that all the time. That's why I said that as well.
A and not an O.
And his dad had stuff to do with this.
Correct.
I love that.
Okay, so you vote on the original one first, then the amendment.
Then the amendment?
Yep.
I thought it was the amendment.
Amendment first, then original.
Keep that parliamentary.
All right. So the amendment that we're gonna vote on right now is for what?
Other than updating public record and attendee guidelines.
Okay.
And spelling Jonathan's name.
Well, that's the
Spelling
record
Jonathan's
part.
name.
Yeah.
That's what
And this is just for the, well, now this is gonna be a 70% later, but right now would be just the EC.
Yes. Just the EC right now.
Just the EC right now.
So just the executive committee voting on this, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Amendment passes. Now, the motion as amended Do we have to do more discussion? Oh, Jesus, is there any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It passes. It'll be all Cheryl's fault if it doesn't work.
Thank you, Ray.
Anything else, young lady?
Not till the 2-minute mark.
Okay. We need to elect 2 new members to the executive committee. We had one that quit, our big Mr. Marty, and then Jerome hasn't been able to make very many meetings, and he requested that we would get someone else in there that could make more of the meetings. So, you can do it under nominations. You could just put yourself in if you want to go for the executive committee. We have 2 spots, and I know David Lewis wants to run. Jerry wants to run. And we have David Mansfield. He said that he wanted to go, but he didn't send me anything to read. So, is there anyone else here that would like to run for the executive committee position?
Scott.
From,
What?
from the executive committee, run from, not at this time.
I was like,
Smart move.
we don't have that as a vote. I know.
Yeah. Okay. Then basically we have 3 people running for 2 positions. And we can just do it where you vote for.
Who's the third? No, we
You
need
can't.
formal nominations.
This you don't, because you can nominate yourself.
You can.
Yep. So you don't have to formally nominate. But we should be able to vote and just take the numbers in the order and take the top 2.
Okay, can you ask one more time?
Is there anyone else that would like to run for the executive committee? Anybody? Anybody? Okay.
So, we have.
The 2 Davids, who's the other?
We have 2 Davids, and we have Jerry Van Blarkum. Jerry, stand up. And really, we should,
introduce myself.
Yeah, while we're doing this.
Okay, I'm Jerry Van Blarkum. I'm precinct delegate of Coldwater Township. I've spent 25 years in the Coldwater Optimist Club. I've been president of the club for 5 of those 25 years, secretary-treasurer for 2 years, and on the board of directors for the rest of my time at the Coldwater Optimist Club. So I do have experience on committees and stuff, so I'd like to serve the Coldwater Republican Party by serving on the executive committee. Thank you.
So that's Jerry Van Blarkum. Thank you. David Lewis.
Can I nominate? I'm not executive, does that matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
How about Julia Lindsay?
Oh, I decline because John is on it, and I feel that enough other people should be represented.
Okay, forget that.
Nice
Thank
try,
you.
Reese. Okay,
I don't think 2 people from the same family should be.
Yep. David Lewis.
Well, I wasn't supposed to be here today, so I sent him something to read, so. I tried. I'm David Lewis. Like I say, some of you know me. Over the last couple of years, I've gotten to know quite a few of you. I look forward to the next couple decades, hopefully getting to know you, the rest of you. My family, well, I'm going to say first off, I'm an American. And my family actually came to this continent before it was America, back in the 1600s. I've got relations that were in the Revolutionary War, Civil War, Vietnam, World War II. I was in the Navy for 6 years myself. I was going to say, we came to this area in the 1800s. My great, I think it's 3 greats, uncle, maybe 4, was Henry C. Lewis, who had the art gallery here in town. We had a constable that was one of my great grandfathers. And so we've just got a lot of history here. My whole life I've either been here or working my way back here. So I started with the Republican Party 2 years ago because I wanted to get involved for those purposes, and I'm just looking forward to doing it, but continuing to do it.
So on this voting, you have to be a precinct delegate. So only take a slip if you're a precinct delegate. And you vote for 2 out of the 3. So you have David Lewis, Jerry Van Blarkum, and then David Mansfield, who's not here tonight.
So he's running for commissioner in what district?
That was my question, because that's one of the reasons I was at running District 5.
He's running for commissioner, but he is willing to do this as well. He is retired Air Force, I believe, and you heard him speaking at the Reagan Day barbecue. He and Judith were the MCs for the evening.
And he's put a lot of time into
Yeah, and he was also on the bylaw committee. So if you need help, I don't have a Sharpie. Yep. I'm going to hold this up here. 2 names only, please.
Anybody need a pen? Slide past you.
We're going to have Sharon volunteer. Julia volunteer. Volunteer. You want one more? So it'd be
I don't want to be responsible for these.
Sharon.
Who is?
Sharon and Julia.
One of you guys like to be a teller?
Sharon and Julia? All right, I'll collect them and give them to
Sharon.
All right, I'll collect them. All right. Everybody good there? Everybody good?
Are you collecting ballots, Mike?
Sharon. Okay? Cut them off. No more crap.
Yeah. What? I was going to, but I forgot to do this little thing for Jennifer. Well, it's not for our logo. It's just color.
I'll hold them up.
While they're counting, we've had some work being done on changing the logo, and one of the examples is like this: Branch County Republicans with the state of Michigan, and then the elephant is there, basically where Branch County is. And part of the reason they were looking to make some kind of a change is when we have t-shirts or sweatshirts or signs out and about, it stands out of what we are and who you are. It's easy to read and to see. And this is another way for it where it'd be on a red shirt and white lettering. And then they work this up. I know it's hard to see, but this would be in a banner form. So it'd be, this would be a banner. They have one worked up that's,
Excuse me, Randy. There were 28 ballots turned in, 23 signed up. Just to verify that they were all precinct delegates, can we ask who did not sign in?
okay.
If it was show of hands, anyway, if there were 5.
Do we have precinct delegates that did not sign in?
Can we do raise hands, please?
Oh, you know what?
Letha's
Sign
one.
in. Letha's one who didn't sign in. So you need to go sign in, Letha.
Do we have any other precinct delegates that did not sign in?
Because the votes are not matching the precinct delegates, so we need that to match up or we all have to revote.
Did anybody get a ballot who's not a precinct delegate that you know of?
But we got a few precinct delegates that need to sign in.
Or did they possibly sign the wrong one and sign the guest one instead of the delegate one?
So how many of you are signing in? How many PDs are signing in? Can you guys raise your hands? Jerry, you just signed? Huh? You already did, okay.
Okay, so we've got to revote. We've got some people that were not precinct delegates.
Can we have a show of hands on PDs?
We actually need to revote. And then what we can do is have everyone just stand up. And only people who stand up get a paper. Does that sound fair?
Let me do a double count.
We actually have people that voted that weren't supposed to.
We do.
Oh, they did.
Verify?
They did acknowledge that.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm going to take charge here. Everyone who's a precinct delegate, please stand up. Everyone who is not a precinct delegate, stay sitting. And then I'm going to hand out papers to everybody standing. You guys got yours? Yep. Okay.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Let's do it again.
Are you counting out loud while you do that?
Oh, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Count. 15. 16, 17, 18, oh, 19, 20 for the people back there.
Out of those people.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. So that'd be right, then 28. 27, I'm sorry, there's 27, Julia didn't. So 27, okay.
Is that all that's there?
27 is what we should get as a head count then? Okay. Darius got one as well.
All right, so 27.
Okay.
Spelling, I give it to you. Okay. Yeah, if you need help with spelling.
They just took mine.
I don't understand it. Oh, yeah.
So back to your question, we will go ahead and.
They did?
All right, while they're counting, we're going to have Sir Jonathan come up. And
Sir Jonathan.
Yep.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'll just do a brief update from Lansing. I don't think the last time I was here, or someone can tell me if I got this wrong, I don't think I had introduced legislation yet on sanctuary cities in Michigan. No. That's what a lot of the message over the last month has been. There are a group of us in the Republican caucus in the Senate who took the initiative because we see what's happening at the southern border, and we know that even though we're not a southern border state, that there are a lot of implications across the whole country when we see this, this basically invasion happening that's been going on ever since Biden took over. And it's been one of the top issues that we get constituent messages about, right? So we sat down and said, what can we do at a state level to try to be a part of the solution? And so there were two areas that we focused on. One that I wasn't one of the sponsors on was advancing some legislation that has to do with drug trafficking that goes on as a result of open borders policies, and especially with some focus on the fentanyl problem. So that came forward last month. But then the part that I was one of the leaders on, I myself and Senator Michelle Hoytinga put in a two-bill package that would effectively outlaw sanctuary cities in Michigan. And of course, sanctuary cities are a little bit of a misnomer. They chose that as a messaging point, right? Sanctuary city means a city where they refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement when it comes to things like honoring ICE detainers and making sure that people that are there illegally, even if they, commit further crimes, that they're not going to ever end up actually facing those consequences. So that's something that if it were passed, and of course the Democrats are not a big fan of this, but we've put them on the record with this. We did some creative things on the floor like a couple weeks ago. The Democrats decided to advance legislation that would protect milkweed in Michigan, because milkweed is apparently like the only thing that monarch butterflies can eat, so we have to save the monarch butterflies. So what we did on the Senate floor is we forced a vote on an amendment that would tie that bill to the sanctuary city bills. And the point was, and I stood on the floor and I said, I love butterflies, I'm okay with this, but if we're going to take the time to protect the butterflies, maybe we could also take the time to protect our own communities as well, right? And all of the Democrats voted against this amendment, except for one. And they accused us. They said we were just doing political theater, or this was all political. One of them chose not to vote at all on the measure. She left the floor. You want to guess why? She's running for Congress right now. So who's playing politics on this? She knew she could not take a vote saying that we wouldn't take up a border issue bill, because they know it's the number one issue across the whole country right now, and rightly so. People are worried about this. So that's one thing that we focused on over the last month. The only other thing I'll say for now is that, and I'll take questions if there are any, this last week was sort of a frenzy of legislation, because we just today broke for a spring break next week and probably part of the week after. So we'll be back in district, but that always leads to sort of like a frenzy of whatever legislation they can get through at the last minute. I think on Tuesday we were voting on the floor until 10:30 or 11 at night. And so there were a lot of bad ideas that went through. One of them you should be aware of, there was a package of bills around contract surrogacy in Michigan. I just want people to be aware that it passed through the Senate, it's not gone through the House yet. This is something that Right to Life in Michigan came out against, and I voted against them. I think it's actually a topic that a lot of people have, even in our side, have some sort of different views about, what is the right place, how could surrogacy work. But the bottom line, what you need to know about these bills is that they were really radical leftist bills. Like I'll give you one example. Ruth Johnson, one of my colleagues, stood up and put an amendment up saying, if we're going to do this, let's put an amendment in that says you cannot use as a surrogate a woman who is a minor or someone who is mentally disabled. And the Democrats said, no, we turned that amendment down. You can use those people, right? So this is their sort of like radical, wild, reproductive. They want to re-engineer the way that family structures work. And under this set of legislation, you could literally have a couple that's never been to the U.S., that's from another country, that buys all the genetic material they want, rents a womb, has a baby made to order, and then sent back to them in their country for whatever purpose, right? I don't think that's how, I actually happen to believe there is a place in some circumstances for surrogacy and even contract surrogacy, but that's not what we're looking at. So that's one thing that went through. I don't know what'll happen to it on the House side. Another issue that a lot of people wrote us about last year was a 2-bill package that was about hate crimes or hate speech in Michigan. I think it's Senate Bill 600 and 601 or 601 and 602. Those did pass through the Senate on Tuesday. The biggest problem that people were worried about with those bills had to do with, there were 2 big problems people constantly highlighted. Number one, the way they were written originally, it was possible that if you misgendered someone, right, if you didn't use their proper pronouns, that you could potentially be penalized under these new laws as having done a hate crime against somebody. And the other one was that they rewrote some of the language that made it so your criminal activity could be judged based on the way somebody else perceived what you said rather than what you actually said. And that's a new standard in law that the dumb standard. That's not how, it shouldn't be subjective. So those 2 things, I'm actually proud to report that on Tuesday, I had 2 amendments in my hand on the floor, and when they brought the bills up, I took them back and said, we're going to turn these in to vote on them. And at that moment, the Democrats stopped and they took the chamber into recess. They went and rewrote the bill and put my amendments into it so that they wouldn't actually have to vote on them because they knew that they couldn't get away with this. So bottom line is they passed the bills, and they're still not great bills, but they incorporated the changes that, number one, make it crystal clear that you cannot be prosecuted for using somebody's pronoun that they don't prefer. And number 2, it changed the standard back to some language that had already been affirmed by the Supreme Court about what reckless disregard for somebody might be. So that was a small victory, but it was a victory. They knew they couldn't get away with this crazy language. So those are a few things that are happening in Lansing. I'll stop there and see if anybody has questions about other things you've heard up there, or other things you'd like to hear up there. Anybody?
So the sanctuary city, I just started thinking about this with kind of what we've been through in this county, constitutional county, all this. Is it specific to immigration, to illegal activity, not cooperating with federal officials like ICE, etc., or could it ever be used to say, as a city, no, you can't protect people because that's what the federal constitution says, you have to comply with the mission. You see what I'm saying? Could it ever be construed against us and not the way that you're intending?
I don't think so. I mean, it's written specifically on immigration law, and I wouldn't one of the challenges is this gets into a topic of, generally we like government to be more local, or I do, right? But it's also kind of a Republican thing. You don't really want to be putting your fingers in there and telling people this is how you got to run your sheriff's department or whatever. But there are places where you say, if the responsibility has been assigned to the federal government and they're running the show right now, then there's not really a possibility to say that the states are going to, or a local municipality is going to go have local control over whether they enforce the law. So, in this case, I think, I'll share it with you. You can look. You can tell me if there's a problem if we were ever to get it to advance. But I think that it's pretty narrowly focused on saying the status quo right now, although, of course, if anybody's following, Texas is doing a good job of challenging this right now, but the status quo is that the federal government is largely responsible for enforcing immigration law. They just haven't been doing it under Biden, right? So this would make it so that, the cities couldn't even make it worse and say we're not even going to work with ICE if they come out and want to take action against somebody who's here.
So the social justice and the bills that were put through, where do you start and how do you stop bills and laws being wrote on social justice? Because it really should have no place in our government. We should not be worried about this. Nobody has the right to tell another person how to speak. So where does that start? Where does that process start? How do these bills even
I mean, you can.
Tom and Steve don't have a constitution to stop.
I mean, we have a constitution. We have a majority party in the Senate is still the Democrats. They don't particularly care what the Constitution says. They drafted these bills. They introduced them. They moved them. I mean, I don't want to be, flippant about it, but it starts with winning back majorities in the legislature, right? Or winning the governor's mansion in 26. We can't stop them right now from, if they want to run the craziest stuff, and they've run some really wild things. Think what I just said, right? We stood up on the floor and we said, don't let a minor female or somebody who has, a known mental disability be taken advantage of and used as a surrogate. And the Democrats voted that down. They said no, right? They will do crazy things. This is like simple math. There are 20 of them, there are 18 of us. Right now they can outvote us. We obviously need to change that. I do think that, some of this stuff is slowed down. They're trying to use the Senate right now, the Democrats are, because they still have a majority. They're trying to use the Senate to then put pressure on the House side, because the House is still a 54-54 split. And so we actually have slowed a lot of these things down in terms of they don't actually make it across the finish line, get to the governor's office, and get signed. If you really want to keep that option alive of stopping their legislation, there's two elections coming up on April 16th, for the 2 open House seats. One of them's over in Westland, one's in Warren. And they're really hard seats for us to win in a general election because they're usually over 60% Democrat. But we've got candidates that are running out there, and in a special election season, the idea is that if we could get enough of the base turnout, it's usually a turnout election in these special elections. So if you want to get involved in that, follow up with me. I can send you a link where you can send a few bucks if you want to, or if you're really inspired in the next couple weeks, we can drive over there. I've got people that'll be over there knocking doors for these candidates. It's a hike, but there are people from all across the state that are getting involved. And what happens is if we win one of those seats, we will probably keep Lansing, we'll keep the Democrats in check all the way until the November election, right? And then at the November election, there is a very good chance, because by the end of this month, we're going to have new House maps, because the Independent Redistricting Commission, when they drew the maps, they drew them in a way that was found to be unconstitutional. So they're being redrawn right now. Those will be instituted for this next election. They probably will be slightly more in our favor, and there's a good chance that we win the House back this fall. So we could potentially, if we get this one seat in the special election, and if we win the House in November, we're not going to be able to go out and pass great legislation that'll save Michigan, but we will be able to put an end to a lot of the worst ideas that the Democrats are bringing forward all the way through the rest of Gretchen Whitmer's term, if we can do those things. Anybody else? I've been up here for a long time.
For more information.
Yeah, get with. What's that?
I will do that. I'll message you tonight.
Please, yeah. Let's maybe put an email together, just to go to everybody, because if anybody's interested in that special election,
That's a
maybe
good
you have
idea.
already. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I haven't. That's a good idea.
2 more quick.
Just as years ago, and some of you remember the place, the Kohler State Home and Training School. And when I was about this high, most of them were very near normal, that came out and worked in private homes and all that. And there was a rule about the marriages and the children produced thereof by whomsoever. And I think if you go back and look it up, it's probably still on the books.
Sheldon, do you know on these 2 special elections, whether there's anything set up where we can make phone calls for those 2 candidates?
I believe there is, so I can get that. I think Randy just kind of confirmed to me. We'll work together the next day to maybe send an email out with any ways that people could get involved in those. I've thrown in some money behind. I think I gave like $750 to one of the candidates, and we sent some other knockers and some people that have volunteered before over to work with them. But if we can get something like that people wouldn't have to drive, I don't know if Josh is using a phone app, but We'll find it. And are you on the mailing list for the county park? Okay, so we'll try to get that in the next day so that it gets out to people if they want.
Stay home and make 10 or 20 calls a day.
Yeah. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, you know, I'm in, and they really, just because I'm so into the political side of things, they like to ask me questions to ask you.
Sure.
So are you from, so the other day Governor Whitmer announced that $8.3 million cut to the Office of Auditor General.
Yep.
As you know, the Auditor General in the past 4 years has revealed a lot of stuff she did, whether it be the deaths in long-term care facilities. They have uncovered the improper payments by the Unemployment Insurance Agency during COVID, as well as the reports about the Department of Education and the Civil Rights Department. They just kind of, the kids at school want to know what your thoughts were on that as their state representative.
Yeah, I'm 100% against it. I mean, the governor, you know, we are in budget season, and this is related to that, right? So she comes out, the regular budget cycle is usually we first see a recommendation of an entire budget written by the governor. It then goes into, you know, a presentation, and the subcommittees and appropriations look at this, and then we craft our own versions. And it's all pretend because the real budget is negotiated in a back room somewhere. But the point of the question is the governor came out and actually said of one of the few places that she actually wants to cut the size of government is the Office of the Auditor General, which is a constitutionally mandated position that does a lot of good work. And you just heard some of it. That they tend to actually do a pretty good job of being nonpartisan. You go in, you can make a request to them and say, these are the parameters what I'd like you to look into. And they've, you know, in a lot of cases been the best watchdog up there inside government of saying, we can show you what's going on, follow the numbers. And so she is proposing a pretty drastic cut to it. And I just think it's like blatantly wrong. Last week was Sunshine Week in Lansing. That's supposed to be like Transparency Week. So we did pass a set of Freedom of Information Expansion Acts out of the Oversight Committee where I serve. But we made this point in some of our messaging. Not only is this wrong, it's like doubly insulting during Sunshine Week, Transparency Week, that the governor is out there proposing that we cut the budget of the Office of the Auditor General. It's a terrible idea, and I oppose it. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan.
I think we got results.
Well, I didn't think this would be quite this tough. We had 27 people stand up as precinct delegates to vote. 26 people turned in something.
It was one ballot was empty. And nothing was written on it. So there was 27.
So there were 27 ballots and
One
somebody
empty
chose
one.
not to vote.
Right. Nothing was written on one. It was completely empty.
So we do need to revote, but if somebody chooses not to vote, do not turn in your ballot.
Why do you revote?
Because it has to match the number of ballots.
But you know that there were 27.
You know it was empty.
Okay, so we handed out 27, 26 voted, and somebody chose not to vote at all.
Right, an empty ballot. Right.
So I've never heard of that before, so Chair?
We haven't either.
So technically,
It's still
I'm sorry?
abstaining.
It's called abstaining.
Abstaining?
Yes.
Okay.
One person
So
abstained.
technically, we do not need to revote.
Right. That's exactly
What's your
right.
thoughts, Chair, and?
Yeah, that's how it works.
I'm good with the way it is.
Okay.
That person turned in
Okay.
they
An empty
collected
ballot.
27
Okay.
from 27 people.
As long as there is somebody in here who abstained and we
Done.
did not misplace a
Okay.
ballot.
But if they abstain, that's obviously their choice.
Yep. Yep.
In the future, please write abstained.
I know, you need
Just
to-
so we know. Okay, are we okay with that? Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Okay, so we have David Lewis is a new executive committee person, and Jerry Van Blarken is new. And welcome to the group, I guess. Sheriff John, would you like to come up?
Well, I don't have a whole lot new to report. Unless somebody has any questions of me, I could just do it at that, and then we could get out of here a little quicker. I will say that there have been crews in the old jail, and so they're going to be looking at tearing it down. So I'm actually thinking they're going to actually tear the thing down finally. So I'll get that out of the way. But unless anybody has a specific question, I'll just let us get out of here a little earlier. How's that?
Well, that's easy.
Thank
No
you.
questions for John?
Yes, sir.
Why don't they use the old sheriff's department building there for homeless?
What's that? Turning it into homeless?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, as it is. I mean, you don't have to. You got bathrooms in each cell, don't you?
they don't work. That's why we're out of there. You remember that thing was built in 1947, and they were all cast iron pipes. And all those pipes, one of the reasons we left was because they were starting to crush. So when I left there, the last week we were in that building, we paid over $5,000 just to have enough water to get through the end of the week until we could get into the new building because one of the pipes crushed in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
So the building just couldn't house anybody. It just has to come down.
Unsalvageable.
So, nothing to do. But good thought.
Do you have anything about the shooting?
The state police shooting?
Yeah.
I don't know much about that. They called the EST team down, and when that happens, then it's all turned over to them. So we really don't have much information about that at all. So sorry about that. Yes?
Do you have any comments on the Quincy's Police Department and the meeting that's coming up that might disband their police?
I had contact with the Quincy village manager, and she requested that we help them, assist them with coverages because they're down to one officer. So that was her main concern as to what they're going to do beyond that. Like you, she told me they were having a meeting to have that discussion. So I don't know any more than that, but both the state police and our department are going to fill in to try and help cover the village while they get through that transition, whatever that might be. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know where we can direct this question to how many illegals or migrants, whatever you want to refer to them as, have been dropped off in Branch County?
I wish I did know.
I know. Who can we find that out from?
A lot of these a lot of these folks are coming in from the different manufacturers that we have, or the different companies that we have. So that's where a lot of them are coming from. I can't tell you how you would ever find out, and I don't know if they are dropping them off. I'm in constant contact with the chief of police. Neither one of us, we were asked that question earlier, know of any organized drop-off spot. So I don't know that, and we haven't seen any buses that are actually showing up there and dropping people off, nor have we been contacted by any of the social agencies saying, hey, we need some help. These people are showing up. We don't know what to do with them. So I don't think there's any organized group dropping anybody off here. Doesn't mean that they aren't coming here individually or in smaller groups, but we don't see any organized drop-offs like that. That haven't yet. But if they keep pouring in here, I gotta believe eventually it's gonna happen.
Where are these people getting their income from? Where are they working if they're going to be dropped off in Branch County?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, if they're dropped off illegally, if they brought here by another from Texas and they're dropped off here, I don't know what that answer to that question is. What I see happening right now is a lot of them are being brought here to work at either Clemens or the tomato factory. My biggest concern is, as I expressed here before, is sometimes they don't make it in the job, and so then these companies don't provide any social resources for these people, and so they're just turned out on the street. So if you come here, you have a job, you don't work out in the job, they turn you out on the street, where do you go? There's no organized place for them to go to get these resources. There's resources here for them, but they don't know how to do it. They can't even speak. Yeah, they can't speak English. So.
Are any of them being housed in any of the hotels?
Yes.
Clemens.
Yeah. In fact, I think Clemens owns a couple.
Yes, they do.
Not by the government, paid
No.
for by the government,
No.
paid for by
Yeah.
Clemens.
Yeah, by the manufacturer.
Because other bigger cities are getting federal funding to house them in hotels.
And paying them.
Yeah.
Does I see a hand over there?
Probably on your point, but do they get green cards from the border?
The folks that we have, in order for them to come here and work, have to go through that vetting process, and they have to have a work visa and all that. Again, I don't know if there's probably folks coming in via families or some other method that we wouldn't know about, and those folks, I couldn't tell you whether they have proper documentation or not.
Get a green card off the border?
Oh, no, not coming across the river. They're not.
Put them on a bus and transport them to New York.
I worked up in Battle Creek there. It used to be American Fibrate. I don't know if you're familiar with that factory. But half the workforce there was Mexican, which is okay. But back then it was INS. If you went into that building, because they did raid that factory a couple times. And as a joke, if you go in there and you yell out INS, you'd see about half the workforce leave.
Hey, John, sorry.
Yes.
Question. I know that in the past, and I think at one of our community meetings, the Coldwater police were just sharing about some uptick in crime at some of the hotels or some of the lodging. And it was made mention of primarily Clemens. So if that, and not just, they're not the only one that employs individuals and they bust them up from the south. Is there any coordination between these companies who are busting in these groups of individuals and law enforcement, whether sheriff or the police, coordination for controlling crime, or that there's some sort of talking to, right? If the people who are being brought by them are causing issues, how is that coordination happening between kind of the parents and the kids?
I don't think it is right now. And I think that what's going to probably happen is as we were talking about, as we begin to gather statistics and information about what's going on, like say at the hotels, is that really being caused by these folks who are living in that hotel? Because also remember, there are a lot of folks that rent a hotel room for drugging for the weekend. Is that what the problem is? So as we begin to gather information and compile that, then I think they'll probably see movements to go to the city fathers, the county commission, and say, hey, this is the issue. We need to take it up with these folks. If you're going to bring people in, then you need to have a resource for them to go to if you can't support them any longer. You bring them here, you hire them, then you let them go. What are you doing for them now? Because that shouldn't be yours and my responsibility. We didn't bring them here. That should be their responsibility, in my opinion.
Excuse me, I do know that the vegetable plant, mostly Somalians, and I do know they're on 6-month work passes.
They go back and forth.
So there's always, so that's solved. Now, as far as Clemens is concerned, I've represented in the purchase of their homes 2 different Haitian families that are legal immigrants. They worked hard to get here and they're happy to be Americans. And they're happy with their job. Their living situation in one of our apartment complexes behind Home Depot, they're talking of the Venezuelans are basically who is out of order, and they are not here legally, and they do cause a lot of problems. Okay? So that's what I know as a real estate agent.
But this is something that I really think that our commissioners do need to discuss with Clemens, and there needs to be accountability.
Anything else? Yes.
I was out of town, but I think, was it one of your guys, gals, that was injured or was it?
Yes.
How are they doing?
Good. They're doing really well. In fact, he'll be back to work, I think, next week on light duty, and then he'll be back to full duty, we think, on the 23rd.
Good.
So he's doing really well. Yeah, it was pretty scary what he got.
That was the one at Garfield?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So sorry. I thought I was going to get out of here quickly for you. Oh, thank you.
You got questions? You got questions? Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other already elected officials here tonight? I don't believe so. So what we'll do now anybody and everybody can have a couple minutes, but I'd like to start with people that are running for something, give them their couple minutes first, and then we'll go to all the rest of us. So, whoever's running for something, who wants to go first? Adam?
Hello folks, Adam Stockford, running for state representative. Currently I'm mayor of Hillsdale. I'm on my second term over there. I've been in office over a decade now, so that's a long time. It's a mighty long time. I appreciate you guys having me. I've been over here a couple times. Your meetings tend to run a little long. I got a kid that works at Arby's in Hillsdale that I got to pick up, so sometimes I don't get to stay, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I will tell you, in my tenure as mayor of Hillsdale, we have fixed 12 miles of roads over there. That's a third of our roads. Now, as we bring roads that are in poor condition up to good condition, for every one we do, 2 roads that are in fair condition go down to poor condition. So it's a constant game of catch up. But a third of the roads, I think that's pretty impressive. That's more than 50 years of my predecessors. So that's something that I'm proud of. Another thing, 5 straight audits. We have had A+ ratings on our audits. When I took office in 2017, I was on council before then, but when I took office in 2017, we were set to be bankrupt in 2020. This last year, we had the first multi-million-dollar surplus in our budget ever. And that's something else that I'm very proud of. Another thing that's happened in my tenure, we've brought the biggest employer into the city of Hillsdale in the past 50 years. That's Meyer. You guys already have one, but we're excited about it in Hillsdale. If I'm elected, I can promise you 3 things. Can't promise you I'll never do anything to piss you off. Anybody elected tells you that, they're lying to you. I can promise you I'll show up. Been in office, like I said, over a decade, missed 1 meeting. That's it. All that time, 1 meeting. Second thing, you call me, I'll answer the phone. I'll be honest with you. Those are the 3 things. So, happy to, I don't know what the decorum is for your meetings. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm also happy to cede the floor and let somebody else talk. But I do have one more thing to mention. I got some flyers over there on the table. We're having a fundraiser at Hillsdale Brewing Company, which is in Hillsdale. I will have one in Branch County at some point. But this is for April 11th. That's a Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Lots of people are going to be there. John Lindsay wanted me to, told me I had permission to mention that he was going to be there. So, got these little palm cards over there on the table if you guys want to learn more. Questions or cede the floor, bud?
No. If anybody's got a question for Adam, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
When's the election?
The election is August 6th, and that's the primary. This is a 75% Republican district, so that's when the election happens for this seat. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone else in Hillsdale?
I'm the only candidate in Hillsdale so far, and hopefully it stays that way, but if not, we welcome all comers. Thank you, Cheryl. Any more questions?
What's your last name?
It's Stockford. Stockford. Yep. You want to learn more? Got some palm cards over there. We all right?
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Who else? Michael?
I just wanted to say thanks for everybody who's supporting me. I do have my business cards over here. They have my domain on them, which is michaelthing.com. That'll take you straight to my website. If you want to know anything about me, I put a story in there from when I was a child all the way up till recent times. If you want to contribute to my campaign, there's a place you can do it right on the website. It doesn't have to be in person. And I have shirts and my signs. My signs, if you want one, I'll give them to you. The shirts, of course, are $15.
Any questions for Mike? Thank you, sir. Who else? Jessica?
Sure, just in case anybody doesn't know who I am, if you can't see me. And that's usually Randy's go-to, is she's so short. I'm Jessica Green. I am running for our District 1 County Commissioner position. gonna have a little bit of a battle behind me, but I think we're ready for some change. And I think our community needs to be heard. It hasn't been done in a long time. And as everybody knows, I'm all about protecting our constitutional rights. So that's gonna be our goal. We're gonna push it forward. So.
Anybody have a question for Justin?
Okay.
Thank you then. Who else? Go ahead, Richard.
Richard Swanson. I'm running for District 4 County Commissioner. Just to let people know, I'm the one that started this constitutional county problem, as it turned out to be, and I just want to see it through. I want to make sure that happens. So that's the kind of person I am, and I hope you guys will support me.
Okay. Any questions for Richard? All right. Thank you, sir. Who else do we have in here running for something?
I'm not running for anything.
We'll have you run.
I want to talk. I want
She's been waiting.
When you're done with the runners.
We got to be getting close. Any more runners?
Oh, I run for precinct delegate.
Did you already get your name?
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Leave it to Julia. Let's go ahead, Cheryl.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay. You could have been on the executive committee.
I tried. Cheryl, I tried.
Two things. I think maybe we should start thinking about getting financially behind these commissioners that are running before the primary as a group. So, usually we wait till the end of the year after the primary, but we want them to win their primaries, right? So maybe we should think about doing that now. And the other thing is, Mark Yearling of Muffler Man has a car that he runs at Butler, and it runs 16 to 18 weeks, and he's got a spot on his roof that he would let us rent if we wanted to do that. So it's like a 12 by 24 inch spot. It takes, I think we can get like 36 letters on it, maybe a logo. But if we get him a rough draft, he'll have that made as part of it. Also, with what he's offering, we can have the car for a day. So if we've got an event, we can have the car there, and they'll bring it, drop it off, and I don't know what else with it, but anyway, good, nice, fun little promotional thing. So for that, it's $800. So he doesn't really want to do candidates, but we could advertise ourselves and we could get our like our website out there, our logo out there, whatever you want to do. So he needs to know probably within the next week or so. If you guys if you're interested in it, we probably should start talking about it.
Okay. Any questions for Cheryl on that? And that's up there to Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he says there's, I think, 3,000 people there? Maybe more every Saturday, and he's there minimum 16 Saturdays. So a lot of people would see our ad.
Yeah.
There's questions. How much is it? 800.
800. Mm-hmm.
Can we just do we do it just once, or can we vote in the primary for that date and then afterwards the next elections, do it that way too? Get people in the primaries?
It sounded like he would make one thing for us. It's not like we could change it out every week.
I think that's actually painted onto the cars, like a permanent, or decal, or it's a decal press, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Dee, you have a question?
Yeah, our motion still in order.
Or are you done having a motion on the floor?
Well, I'll jump with the motion. So far. Michael?
I just wanted to remind everybody who didn't know that there is a 9-day early voting at the Durst Center again for the Republican primary. So they can start voting on July 28th.
Okay. Gary?
At some point, do you and I have to take the oath of office tonight or next meeting or when?
Well, you've got a silly question right there, young man. You're supposed to. Supposed to. Maybe we just don't want you to do anything. It would probably take me 10 minutes to find that oath, so let's do it at our next meeting. And you
Jen Wirtz are usually the person who's got all that.
you guys can still pretend like you're official. You want it?
Oh, we got it?
Okay.
There you go. We got it. Come on up.
You want to do it?
There you go.
All right, come on up, gentlemen.
That's why Karen's up front.
All right. She's our girl.
Come on.
All right, raise your right hand.
I have it up.
Oh, and you guys can say this together, just insert your own names. No names. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
my participation on the Executive Committee
my participation on the Executive Committee
as a member of the Branch County Republican Party
as a member of the Branch County Republican Party
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of Michigan and the United States.
the Constitution of Michigan and the United States.
Well done.
Thanks, Karen.
Smart man, smart man.
Oh, I do have, not 2 minutes, but when we get that email sent out for this special election, when people look at what's going on in other parts of our state and you go, we've had enough going on in Branch County, we don't have time to go over and do this, we don't have time to fund that. This is right now in our face, super important. I don't think Jonathan could have expressed that enough, how important this special election is on April 16th, that we get at least one of these individuals. And they were at I know we had one speak at our state or our district caucus a couple of weeks ago, but really, really important. So when we send that out, if you can just send in funding for them, help them get their name out there. If you can go over and door knock for them, get their name out, it is, or call people, whatever we can do, we'll get that information from Jonathan, send it out. But if we can secure one of them and then get the House back, as he said, at this coming election, that is huge. Huge. When we're fighting for the things that are right in front of our face and we go, I can't see this, right? I can't see how I can have an impact right now, and it's April 16th. So, really important.
Very good.
Can we as a Republican Party here support them financially?
We can.
Ken?
If everybody wanted to?
We certainly can.
Yep. She can't make the motion.
You can.
Not yet.
She could have if she went for the seat.
I tried, Randy, I tried.
Immediately?
I think what she's talking about is coming up with an actual amount of money.
No, I know, but I'm asking you, do we need to make, because somebody brought it up about the candidates for commissioners as well. That needs to be an official motion from the floor to be able to do that. All right. Well, and I know that he just referred to Dee's questions that are motions off the floor, but this is a new question. And I think because our next meeting is not timely enough for this. And so I would actually make a motion that the Branch County Republican Party send immediately $100 per candidate.
To
for the April 16th special election.
For the two people there?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll support.
We have
support.
Yep. it's
Talk
3
money, I
weeks.
got nervous. Thank you, sir.
Poor Susan.
So Randy, how do we need to vote on this one? I mean, like, you guys don't get our votes for approving the rental or anything like this. Why do you need to even vote on this? Isn't it just up to the EC to make this decision?
Yes.
It is, and some of it is just to do it around everybody.
Okay.
And just to see what we're going through. And Cheryl?
I was just, Randy can do $300, so he can do the rental, but I guess that's, I would say give him 200 apiece. But that's just my feeling.
2 hours apiece?
Oh, no, we,
So how many
we can
people-
afford it
how
right
many
now.
people are we supporting?
2.
Oh,
We do. So amending that 2 at 200. This is just for the April 16th election. I think we should revisit the commissioner slate at the next meeting.
So, do we have a second for that? Is that your motion
It is.
for? So,
I will get their names, but they're the 2 Republican candidates for the April 16th special election.
$200, 200.
is that Cheryl?
200 each.
Oh,
I'm allowed to know.
the new
Yes.
guy.
Yes, that's very good.
Okay, so the amendment is that we send 200 each to the 2 people running for a special election on April the 16th to try to at least stay with the Democrats on the Congress side.
What are their names?
I'll get that. I can't think of that offhand, but it's the only 2 Republicans that are in the race.
Those 2 people.
Right.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor, this is for the executive committee, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The amendment passes to send 200 each. Now we visit the whole motion to send $200 each to 2 people that are running for the special election, April 16th. The people that Jonathan was describing,
I know, I'm getting it.
whatever their names are. You spell, oh, when you write the check, it's Randy. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. So we're gonna send a total of $400, and we will be putting out an email to everyone and see if we can get some people to go over and help door knock and maybe help push to get that over the hump on that special election. They were nip and tuck all the way through, and then 2 of the Democrats each went to run for a mayorship, I think, and got elected. So that leaves their spots open. So that's why it's available, and with it being even Steven, it just would be great.
So just to be clear, it was Lori Stone and Kevin Coleman, Democrats, that resigned because of their new mayor positions. So the Republicans are Ronald Singer, Singer, running in District 13, and Josh Powell, Powell, running in District 25.
Okay, Josh Powell's District 25, Ronald Singer was what
It's
district?
13.
13, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
When you get that information out, and I know that Jonathan had mentioned this too, if they have any kind of, the Republican Party, if they have any opportunity for us to make phone calls, that is so easy. And I know many of you in this room have done this. You can after dinner make 10 phone calls. You can in the afternoon make phone calls. It can make a huge difference, but we need that information and of how to go about it.
Yeah, I'll get with Jonathan, and we'll get an email out that'll give different levels of things that you can do. So do that right from home. There'll be other stuff that we could carpool and go over and door knock. We'll try to have all those levels to help. Okay, now, anybody else want their 2 minutes for whatever?
So, should I stand up?
Yes.
Should.
So, I'm here a couple months ago, didn't make it to a couple meetings, but as some of you might have known, I gotta search through my legal path. As some of you might have known, during the Democrat primary in Michigan, there was a large amount of Muslim voters who voted uncommitted. And you know, I'm that type of person who I'll just go up to someone and say, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Because I find that interesting, I find that engaging. In Coldwater, I have not talked to a single Muslim who is not planning on voting for Trump in November. Another thing, and I just kind of find this interesting to share, I guess I'm the unofficial poller, but is in Dearborn, where we have an even larger amount, I was talking to a Muslim student who is in one of my classes with me. She told me her cousin goes to a mosque up there. Their religious leader told them they all had better be voting for Trump in November. So, you know, I was reading an article in the news and it said, you know, Michigan's vote in the presidential election might be determined by our Muslim voters, and I truly, it's true. So yeah, that's the.
Very cool. What's your last name?
Jessica.
Topic there. We are the second largest Muslim population in Michigan. We also have a very large population of Hispanics and so on and so forth. And all of them are very culturally conservative. So it makes sense that they would want to vote the same way we would. So going out to your neighbors, I mean, I live in the 4th Ward, surrounded by the Muslim population. I talk to my neighbors quite often, and they're all in the same thoughts that we are. So definitely be welcoming to them and bring them into our conservative side of things, because those are votes that could help us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Derek.
If you guys have not signed it yet, Nathan has a petition up here to take the power from the county and give it back to the townships. So if you've not signed it yet, please do before you leave.
It is very good to check Darius's table on your way in and on your way out. There's tons of information there for you. Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. We've adjourned.